Brainstorming and sharing ideas is the funnest part of the creative process. We decided to skip the boring part of actually making stuff and just do the fun part. I'm your host, Tom Walma.
And I'm Dustin Cole.
Casey Curran.
And I'm Darius Walker.
And this is Creativity Wasted.
I don't know how in-depth we're supposed to go with this, but so when you invited me on this podcast, however many weeks ago that was, and you told me the premise, I immediately had my idea because this is something I've thought about for about 20 years now. And then something happened last week. SNL actually spoofed the idea. So I don't want to sound like a hack. So I thought about doing something different, but I was like, screw it, I'm doing it anyway. I've always wanted to see a dark and gritty version of Super Mario Brothers, whether that be in film, video games, comic book. It's just something I've always wanted to see. And then SNL actually spoofed Mario Kart and they did it really well. So like it actually made me kind of jealous and actually think maybe I should think of something else, but I thought I'd roll with that anyway. But that's some, like there was the 93 movie with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo that was just, I think, totally trash unless you're part of the cult following for that. But that's something I've always wanted to see and yearned for and hoped for in Hollywood. And given all of the remakes and reboots and all that sort of thing, I'm actually surprised it hasn't happened yet. But that's my big idea.
Would it be like a detective, like a noir, like gritty detective? He's trying to find the princess, or
it's hard to say. I've never really thought so much about the plot, but just that to give it more of a serious tone, almost to have like a Javier Bardem actually play Mario, even though he's Spanish and not Italian, but he is Italian. I don't know, but so I've always kind of thought something kind of dark and gritty. I'm not even sure what the premise is. Maybe that obviously the princess is taken. Maybe Bowser is not even an actual dragon per se, but maybe somehow, somewhere in all of this, just kind of mutates into it. And I always kind of envision like Goombas and the Koopas as being more of like a zombie type of situation.
I think like what you were kind of touching on for a second, like, and maybe lean away from doing like a mutation of some sorts. But the Bowser's just a bad guy. He's a kidnapper. You can modernize it, same way how they did the Romeo and Juliet and made it more, to this day. I think you can definitely do that. Bad guy. Maybe his whole thing is he roofies princesses. Who knows? And he captures them, takes them away to his castle, but his castle is just a apartment. All right, it's something else.
And actually, he could be like a super of like he could be like a super like a really like shitty apartment complex. Like that's his kingdom.
Bowser as a landlord, I like it.
Yeah, like Mario, like he's the plumber that was supposed to do some work on the actual shitty apartment. Him and Luigi. And maybe like the mushrooms they don't necessarily make him like grow, but just like it's a hallucinogen that makes him feel a bit stronger than he actually is, that makes him want to go above and beyond and do things that he didn't think he was capable of otherwise. And then maybe even like instead of like the flower with fireballs, maybe he actually has a flamethrower and there's like a flower emblem on the side of the flamethrower or something. And he kind of nicknames it after an actual flower, so to speak. It's just something, like I said, it's something I've ruminated on for years, and I've always really crossed my fingers for how, I've actually written screenplays, like I'm sure we all have, like as comics, but that's not one I've ever touched on because I don't think I'm quite on that level for a big studio to pick up, but it's always been a little bit of a fantasy of mine.
How about this? So with the mushrooms, so you want it to somewhat resemble the video game. So maybe it's like,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, he's in the real world, but when he takes the mushrooms, he's sort of hallucinating something that resembles the Mario game. So he's hallucinating like stomping on the Goomba mushroom or the people with the heads, whatever. But in reality, he's like curb stomping some like Italian mobster guy or something. Yeah. And so there's cuts between him seeing Mario and this super violent reality where he's like stomping on a person's head.
Yeah, I feel there's endless opportunities with something like this.
I felt it's very unfortunate, like you said previously, because SNL beat you to that so hard. and like how it was executed very well. But Adult Swim and College Humor have done similar things, to where they were just like, yeah, he's taking these things to go into that reality of the video game, and oh man, that's a bummer. One week they got you by a week.
When
One week.
When I saw SNL, I was literally sitting there like this, just like, oh God. Like I thought, because it's again, it's something, you brought this up. I was like, I really want to talk about that. That's something I want to see done that I've never seen done. And then I even thought about not doing it because I was like, it'll make me look like a hack. But it's something I've legit always wanted. And I said, fuck it, let's talk about it. But,
I don't mean to be wet blanket guy, but recently Twitter lost their shit because there is a Mario movie coming out, and the original voice actor for Mario is being replaced by Chris Pratt. This seems to be like a little more of a departure than just putting Chris Pratt in it. Like, I don't know how the Mario fan base would how well they would accept it, but like I would go see it. That sounds like a cool movie.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited actually to take my kid to see it because she's really into it, and it's animated, obviously. But I do, like you said.
I was talking about your movie. I would go see that. I'm probably not going to go to the Mario movie. No, I would go see yours where Bowser's an evil landlord doing drugs and shooting people with flower flamethrowers. That sounds freaking sick.
Yeah,
the princesses.
Exactly.
What do you call like the prostitutes who they like suck people's dick for rent or whatever? Strawberry is that the word? Strawberry.
Is there a term for that?
I call her Jennifer. So,
but there's a term for like women who maybe they're not prostitutes, but they collapse on the couch of like a landlord, and they just suck his dick for rent and drugs and stuff.
Sounds like a great set.
That's their thing. I think strawberry. I think there's a term for that, something like that. But that's the princess, maybe.
Yeah. Completely dark. That's what I want.
I do like, there are some video games like Dishonored is an example where depending on how you progress in the video game, you're either good or bad by the time you get to the end. So maybe it's like Mario, if he's like killing every little thing along the way in the video game, it's evil. And then the princess is like horrified at him. You killed 20,000 of these living beings on the way of rescuing me. You're worse than Bowser,
Or
that's a good point.
Or even a game from like a game or movie from like Bowser's perspective, where maybe he's not as bad as made out to be, and Mario is actually just this outsider that's coming in and just murdering every living being in this world that he does not belong in. Because let's be honest, the princess obviously belongs there. He's a plumber. He's not from that world. He's from this world where we all have just stupid menial jobs. He's the outsider there, so maybe he's horrible. But even from a video game perspective, like if Rockstar and Nintendo paired up to make a Mario game, I think that would be amazing, and I think that's kind of where this would go.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Grand Theft Auto, but in the Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah.
How about this? There's a guy, he's playing a game like Pokemon Go. So he's like collecting coins that are not there, that are in like midair, like Mario. But he's off his rocker, and so he's like murdering the other Pokemon Go players and whatnot, just random people on the street.
I
think that was real life.
So it's like my type of game.
Real life Pokemon Go was a thing, yeah. And people were crossing into people's backyards and getting their heads blown off and stuff.
I'm pretty sure people still play that game, so I think it's still going on in some respect.
Yeah, they keep adding more features to it as well. Like it's still ongoing with a strong community that won't give up.
Was there like a Harry Potter one too that they came out with? Like basically the same idea.
Very new right now.
There was a Disney one too, where you collect Disney characters. Yeah, there was
augmented reality.
Yeah. So, any shows or podcasts or things you want to plug?
Next week, I'm in Cadillac, Michigan, at a venue called the Truck Stop. And then the following weekend, I'm in Youngstown, Ohio, at Club 31 with Chris Kattan on Friday and Saturday night. That'd be the February 24th and 25th.
So yeah, I will be at Dr. Gran's open mic. The headliner for that day is Ian Lara. He's a pretty cool guy. So that's going to start at 8 o'clock on February 16th. And then February 18th, I'll be at the VFW Post 3195. I'll be featuring at 8:30 in Norton Shores.
I'm featuring on the 23rd and the 24th. The 23rd, I'm at Journeyman Distillery in Three Oaks. And the 24th, I'm at Rupert's Up and Under in Kalamazoo. It's about a 90-second walk or so from my apartment. So that's pretty sick. And then otherwise, outside of that, I've sort of got a podcast I've started. Haven't actually released the first episode yet, but it's Dead Dog Cinema, talking about people's favorite movie with a dog in it and categorizing whether or not the dog dies at the end.
I'm doing Mead Me at Valhalla on Thursday, March 9th. I have a Twitch channel that I'm trying to promote called Gaming McFitness, where I exercise using video game controllers built into fitness machines.
This has been a production of Planet Amp Podcast, powered by Pinecast.